Hello, everyone, and good morning. This is an interview with Dr. Anah, and I am your host, Dr. Anah. And today we have the beautiful guest, Dr. Sorrell. Hi, Dr. Sorrell. How are you?
Hello, how are you? I'm so happy to be here today. It's wonderful seeing you.
It's wonderful seeing you. I haven't seen you in a while. We tried this before, but we haven't seen each other in person. So I really, really love seeing you today. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your journey towards getting your PhD. Sort of talking about your experiences, what got you to actually wanting to get a PhD, and how you followed through to getting your PhD.
Absolutely. So this is quite a long journey. So I actually earned my master's in 1998
Hmm.
at Bowie State University and immediately went into the counseling field. So my master's was in counseling psychology,
Hmm.
went into the counseling field. I originally wanted to be a school counselor. I wanted to work in the schools or in higher ed. I got a job in higher ed, but then went on to become a school psychologist. As my years went on, I found that my degree was limiting in a sense. I wanted to do more. And I wanted to be able to work at a university as a professor and needed to have a doctorate,
Hmm.
as I was told. I wanted to be able to remain in the field of school psychology. And at the time, we had the APA on our bumper as
That's
school
right.
psychologists in DC. APA, for some reason, just woke up and said, you know what? You all aren't really psychologists.
Right.
You all aren't really psychologists. So we're going to try to change some things within the law so that you all can be bumped down to psych associates.
Hmm. Hmm. I remember that.
And you have to be supervised, even though we have been doing psychologists for years. You're going
Yeah.
to have to be supervised, and you're going to be called something else, and other people will be school psychologists. So
Mhm.
once I got that news, and it didn't pan through, but who's to say it wouldn't happen, they wouldn't try again.
Yeah.
It didn't pan through at the time, but I felt that I was getting the message that I needed to do more
Hmm.
educationally. So at the time I was working a full-time job, had a child. I actually had a child on the way, and decided to take a bold move and apply to a doctoral program. And this was not a PhD, this was a Doctor of Education, EDD.
Hmm.
And this was through the American School of Professional Psychology. It was formerly known as that. Then it became Argosy University.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they had a very good non-traditional program.
Hmm.
And at the time, distance learning, online learning was very new. So I started the program in 2009. Online and distance learning was new and it was stigmatized.
Hmm.
And at the time, people were like, oh, you're getting your degree, you're taking online classes. Oh, that's a degree mill. Oh, you must be buying your
Right.
degree. Well, now no one's saying that,
Right.
right? No
Everybody
one's
wants to
saying
do
that,
that. Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
The tables have turned,
Exactly.
but yes, I did find a program that I felt fit me
Mhm.
because I was working full time, could not give up my job, definitely couldn't give up my family.
Mhm.
So Argosy's program was perfect for me. So those are the things that kind of pushed me into um, really pursuing higher education. Just really feeling that I had to kind of step my game up in a sense in order to do more and have more choices in the field of psychology.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So now you're in the program. What made you stay through the program? Because sometimes people start a PhD or start an EDD, and actually don't follow through because there's a lot going on. There are a lot of obstacles and there's a lot of struggle. There's so much going on. So what made you determined to stay the course through your program?
Well, it started with finding the right program.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, there were some traditional programs that I looked into.
Mm-hmm.
And I also looked into non-traditional programs. So there was Argosy, but there were also other universities like Walden, North Central, other universities that provided either a blended format, like Argosy, where I was taking classes in person
Yeah.
and online, or like Walden, which was all online.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at who do I know who's actually finished the program. I wasn't thinking about the commercial or
Yeah.
the nice little pretty brochure or the
Yeah.
website with everybody smiling with their
Right,
degree.
right,
Like, yeah,
right. What's really going on? Yeah.
I said, who do I know?
Right,
Who do
right.
I know who is Black? Who do I know who is Black, who's like me, who finished the program successfully? And with Argosy, I actually happened to be working with a young lady who just finished the program.
Yeah.
So I talked to her and I was able to kind of get her experience, because what I knew at the time was that there are people who enter in these programs.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of these colleges were for profit at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So it was welcoming to get in the program, but to get out was what was the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
With traditional programs, it's difficult to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're in, you have that support to get out.
Yeah.
So I knew many people who entered into various programs, traditional, non-traditional,
Mm-hmm.
and found themselves all but dissertation. And that's not what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So finding the right program, knowing that it was doable, and then getting in that program and believing I could do it. Because
Mm-hmm.
when I first started, I had some imposter syndrome. And what that meant for me was that I was accepted into the program, but somehow felt that I wasn't enough.
Mm.
Somehow felt that I couldn't do it.
Mm.
And that was like a new feeling for me.
Yeah.
And I really had to sit with that and examine that.
Yeah.
Like, why do I suddenly feel like I'm not enough? Clearly I had it. They weren't letting everybody in the program.
Yeah,
You had
exactly.
So, but I was like, I'm sitting here, and I think part of it was that the environment was so different in the doctoral program, and coming from HBCUs where we had more of a community.
Mm-hmm.
And in some of those tougher courses, like when I went to A&T for undergrad, North Carolina A&T, and Bowie State for grad school,
Mm-hmm.
for those tough courses, I remember looking around in the classroom like, and other people looking at me like, we're making eye contact like, you see, you hear it, like, and then we would get together after class and say, all right, look, let's get together and study. Let's help each other. Let's support each other. If we had a group project, it was like, okay, let's be this community so we can do well in this class. But when I started my doctoral program, it was a very individual environment. It was very competitive. So when I sat in class, everyone was trying to out intellectualize each other. So I felt like, oh my gosh, these people have so much more experience and so much more knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where I thought I had a friend in one of my classes, and I let her look over one of my papers. I was like, hey, what do you think about this paper? And she was just like, you know what? I read your paper and it just looks like a whole bunch of sentences just thrown together. And I was so hurt, I'm like, my goodness, I know I didn't get to this point in my education where, I can't even, she's making it seem like
sentences together. Yeah.
Like I wrote so I said to myself, let me focus on the rubric. All of my work up until that point, all of my grades have been good. No teacher had ever given me bad feedback on my writing. Mm-hmm. So let me focus on the rubric and let me focus on the teacher. Let me tune out all the other students. Let it just be noise right now. I don't need to get approval from any of the other students, because guess what? They don't have their doctorate.
Right. And they're not grading you.
They're just like me.
Right,
Why am
right.
I going to this person like they're an expert? So I had to really examine that and tune out the noise and really just be comfortable with being a bit lonely. I
Yeah.
had to accept this is not a HBCU. This is not a different world where me and Dwayne Wayne and Whitley are sitting around at the pit studying. I had to
Bring
really
out
just
Dwayne
focus.
Wade. Leave Dwayne Wade and Whitney alone.
Right. Ron and all of
Right,
them.
Ronnie. Oh my God. Yeah.
So I had to just be okay with, all right, this is how it is,
Mhm.
accept it. And once I got over that hump, then everything started to work out for me with my doctorate. And I saw it through. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. And I had to attack it.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh,
Yeah.
I'm taking this class.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no, I'm going into this almost like a savage mindset.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you have to, when you get into a doctoral program, you have to be like that. You
Yeah.
have to be like, look, I'm going hook or crook. I
Yeah.
am going to do well in this class and I'm going to get my doctorate.
Yeah. That's awesome. And how did your family deal with this? Because, like you say, it's a very sort of isolated, single-minded path that you take, and there seems to be people around you that seem to kind of have a tough time dealing with you pursuing the single-minded thing. So, how did they fare? How did they do with this journey?
Well, this was definitely a new journey for my family.
Yeah.
No one in my family had gotten their doctorate
Yeah.
before. So when I told my mother, her reaction was not very positive.
Mm, okay.
So she, kind of had some negative things to say about me as a parent pursuing my doctorate. So
Interesting.
it really hurt to cut like a knife at first. She was like, what kind of mother are you going to be getting
Mm,
your doctorate?
mm,
Because I grew up watching my mother get her master's.
mm,
When I was in middle school, I remember sitting at the library. She went to Trinity in DC. And after school, we would go to the library. She'd drop us off at the library while she would go in class. So we'd be in the library for hours and hours and hours waiting for her to finish her classes, which was fine.
mhm,
Um, I had no problems with it at all, no complaints. But what that did was that kind of showed me, wow, my mom was a single mother, pursued her education, didn't let anything stop her. So it motivated me to press on. So I expected and kind of hoped for that same level of excitement from her, but I didn't get that. So what I had to do was pray about it and kind of think about it and reframe it. Like, you know, I'm in a sorority, and if I decided that I wanted to be president of my chapter, or if I wanted to take on all of these committee responsibilities, she would have been proud of that.
mhm.
Well, that probably would have taken the same amount of time and effort and sweat as my doctoral program. So I reframed it that way. I was like, I'm not doing anything that's wrong, right? I'm not doing anything that's going to take away from my parenting, but I'm doing something that's actually adding to myself, which will help actually motivate my children. So I pressed through, and I just had to just kind of, in a sense, not really talk about what I was doing educationally with my family, with my parents, but my husband was very supportive. And I wouldn't have been able to get it without him. And he watched the kids and did whatever he needed to support me so I could study.
Mhm.
So that is what I focused on. I focused on that support. And when it was time to graduate, I did invite my parents, like, yeah, yeah. And they came, but
Good, good.
I really was indebted to my husband because he was my rock during the whole process.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That
Yes.
warms my heart. Yeah.
Yes.
Good, 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 good. Okay, so for anyone who is, looking to do a PhD or an EDD, what sort of advice would you give them, particularly like a young Black woman or an older Black woman who's looking to, get a doctorate? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would definitely tell them where I would encourage them to do their research on the program,
Yeah.
to make sure that this is a program that could fit their lifestyle.
Mhm.
If they're going to be a traditional student, then that's really the ideal situation to get it all done while you're young and you don't have a family or a full-time career. That's a good time to do it. But if you are a bit older, a non-traditional student like I was, to really look and make sure this is a program that can fit into your lifestyle. I would also ask the person to, or encourage them to look at accreditation,
Mhm.
look at the career they're trying to go into, and make sure that the school has the accreditation that is necessary. I have my own personal thoughts on accreditation.
Mhm.
I think that sometimes the accreditation wall is put up if they don't want you.
Yeah.
The accreditation wall is dismantled when they do want you.
Mhm.
But aside from all that, just to make sure that they're not going to a school that doesn't have the proper letters
Yeah.
that they would need in order to get licensed or whatever else on the next step. And I would also encourage them to find someone who's finished the program so that they know that this is actually doable,
Yeah.
that this isn't a program that is essentially going to take your money
Mhm.
and work you like a dog,
Mhm.
and there's no intention on you finishing, because the doctoral process is very political.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that because they're thinking of the master's process,
Mhm.
which is you're in and we're going to get you out. The doctoral process is you're in and you can get to the comps if you have to take comps. You can get all your classes in, but the doctoral process is when the committee
Mhm.
agrees to let you finish.
Yeah.
And that's
But
a
for,
whole
yeah.
other ballgame.
Yeah. But first, you got to find a committee.
You have to, and
Right,
that's
which
another
takes
thing.
which takes a while. I mean, if you're lucky, you get one right away. But if you're not lucky, you struggle to get a committee. So
Right,
that's a good point
right.
that you make. Yeah.
And people don't know that going into the program. I didn't know that,
Mhm.
and a good question to ask is, I was just talking to a colleague of mine, asked, I told her to ask her in her interview, do you all provide the committee or do I have to find my committee?
Good point.
Because that's a big, and it
Yes.
can be a gift or a curse. If they could give you a committee, that's awful. That's like, we don't really want you to finish.
Mhm.
Or you could have to find a committee, which is good because you'd find supportive people, but you got to find them.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Good points. Good points. Okay, so what is your favorite quote, and why is it your favorite quote, and how has it carried you through your life?
well, there's a quote by Lena Horne, and um, she stated, "It is not the load that breaks you down; it is how you carry it."
Nice. Okay.
And I just find that to be so it's motivating and it's so true.
Mhm.
And I think of that in terms of life and things that I have had to go through, things that other people may have to go through. You may carry it in a way that's not as healthy or as beneficial as carrying it in a healthier healthier way or a more beneficial way. So that's something that I try to focus on when I'm going through life.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Sorrell. And right now, you have your own private practice. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now and where it is?
Yes, I have a private practice. It's Synergy Wellness Therapeutic Services. It's in Waldorf, Maryland, and I'm going through a bit of transition with that. Everything with the pandemic and virtual therapy. It's been very different. I started off focusing on working with children,
Mhm.
but I'm transitioning to working with adults. And my focus is going to be on trauma and EMDR. So I'm halfway trained in EMDR now, and
Wonderful.
I love it. I find it to be very beneficial and very fitting for what we are dealing with right now in this pandemic. People need it.
Absolutely.
Um, so that's what I'm focusing on, and I'm letting other people focus on the babies.
They're hard, aren't they? The younger kids? Woo.
You know, it I like working with children.
Mhm.
I do. And I've had a lot of success working with
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
but I can't work with children virtually. I can't do it. I haven't found a way that
Great point.
works,
Yeah, yeah.
that I'm comfortable with. Um, I'm not going to just play just any old video game with them
Mm.
virtually. It's very hard. It's very hard. And outside of virtual therapy, I found that many the parents were very challenging to work with. That's what took away from working with the children. The parents had challenges, and then also the custody things that were going on.
Mm. Very interesting. You have to come
Mhm.
back to like to expound on that at some point, because I think that that's an interesting point with the pandemic and just the battles that the parents have with custody and all that stuff that affects the children and therapy subsequently. So yeah, you have to come back and we can talk about all of that at some point. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. But thank you so much, Dr. Sorrell. It's good to see you
Thank
as
you. It's
always.
great seeing you as well.
I miss you. I miss you so much. And once we all get our shots, I'll do a huge party where all of us come together and hang out. Okay.
That
Thanks.
sounds wonderful. I can't wait.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So take care of yourself.